Many have been critical of Warriors GM Mike Dunleavy's moves as he failed to make a trade for Paul George, failed to make a trade for Lauri Markkanen this offseason. But two of his moves for some young talent on the roster I consider highway robbery. We're going to talk about those moves on today's show. But before we do, guys, we have narrowed the gap. I actually ran these numbers yesterday for our August sub battle. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel because we are on the necks of 76ers now. We were down like 160 yesterday. We're down less than 80 subscribers in the August sub battle at this point. So make sure we beat those cronies over at 76ers now. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/WarriorsTV, and we'll get started with today's show. So before we get to the two big moves, you're watching Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I'm Tyler Smith, and we have to talk about the Warriors highway robbery moves as a whole before we talk about the two moves that I'm going to really dive into today. So this one wasn't Mike Dunleavy, obviously, but the Warriors drafting Steph Curry, I would consider highway robbery. You took him after Johnny Flynn and Ricky Rubio go double point guards to the Timberwolves, and for everything that he's done for your franchise up to this point, as far as being on a cheap contract and winning you 4 championships and just being the face of this franchise for a decade now, highway robbery for Stephen Curry. Also, as far as what Mike Dunleavy has done, pulled off a pretty slick NBA draft trade when he went out and acquired Lindy Waters for the number 52 overall pick, and then he went and finessed the number 52 pick back to get Quentin Post. Hopefully they actually sign Quentin Post here in the coming days, but another highway robbery, getting 2 players for the price of 1 pick. Love to see that. And with this free agency season, when Klay Thompson decides to skip out to Dallas, he decided to recreate Klay in the aggregate. Shout out to Moneyball. I've been talking about it all summer long. He picked up Buddy Hield for the sharpshooting and DeAnthony Melton for the energy on both ends, as well as a decent shooting option as well. So Mike Dunleavy has been making these small robbery moves up to this point, but I got 2 big highway robbery moves that Mike Dunleavy has made. The first one being drafting Brandin Podziemski at pick 19. I mean, as far as rookies go, especially for a guy who's playing in Steve Kerr's system, nobody has gotten more trust, more faith put in them than Brandin Podziemski up to this point. And with the way that Golden State has managed him, not wanting to deal with it, to part with him for either a Lauri Markkanen or a Paul George, I mean, I can see why. Because when you see this guy's contract, I mean, minuscule numbers when we're really, talking about big picture here. Because if we're looking at the big picture, look at what Brandin Podziemski counts against the cap. Never more than 3.34% of this team's cap space Brandin Podziemski takes up. I think he accounts for a lot more than 3.3% of this team's success, and you have him cost controlled for the next 3 seasons at less than $6 million years in all 3, and the next 2, you're not even paying him $4 million. It's unbelievable. I mean, 4 years, $16.2 million. In this season, you're paying Gary Payton II and Kevon Looney more than you're paying Brandin Podziemski's entire contract. Think about that for a second. I mean, I know it's 2 players versus 1, but as far as the impact that Brandin Podziemski himself brings to this Warriors roster, that far outweighs anything that Gary Payton II and Kevon Looney can do at this point in their careers. Because, I mean, rookie season numbers-wise, Brandin Podziemski was solid, right? Based almost at 10 points a night, and those numbers increased as the season went on, as well as his volume. Second on the team in rebounds at 5.8. By the way, he was 5th in scoring on this team. Expect that to have a big jump this year. 4th in assists on the team at 3.7, and 4th in three-point percentage, 38%. That just goes to show how the level of talent in the shooting department that Golden State has had over the years. But I'm expecting a big-time year out of Brandin Podziemski. And as far as what he did this summer, I mean, couldn't have been a better summer for a guy coming off an all-rookie team campaign. Played with Team USA Select, right? Was chosen by the coaching staff over at USA Basketball to play against the top talent in the world, basically, right? Cooper Flagg, who also was on that Team USA Select team, called Brandin Podziemski his favorite teammate, always getting him involved, always looking for the open teammate and making the correct and right plays. And, he took part in the Warriors Summer League team, only playing 2 games, but clearly showed on that floor that he does not belong with the Summer League crowd. He has clearly progressed and clearly developed in order to be a key piece on this Warriors team moving forward, not some guy who should be getting some burn on Summer League trying to make a name for himself. And Brandin Podziemski, I mean, talking about his season upcoming here and how he's progressed and what he is doing to his game, because as far as a rookie goes, he has a very refined, smooth game. And here's what he had to say about the improvements that he's made this upcoming season. He said, "For me, I'm feeling really good. Took out the floaters, took out the hook shots, kind of put in more mid-range stuff, more threes off the dribble, more threes off the catch. So just adding different things, and defensively, trying to take that challenge of being out there with Steph every night." I mean, you want to talk about defensively, Brandin Podziemski puts himself in harm's way. The number one player in total charges drawn in 2023-24 was Brandin Podziemski with 38. So for a guy who, in my opinion, isn't going to be that top-end, elite on-ball defender at the guard position, for him to affect the game defensively in other ways, being a great team defender, taking a ton of charges and putting your body on the line, I love to see that from Brandin Podziemski, because he's a guy who, you look at his game, he doesn't have the elite athleticism. He doesn't have the elite shooting just yet. Did coming into the NBA, but, he just hasn't shown that he's a 40% three-point shooter just yet. So for him to do the intangible things and make himself, stand out in the effort department is something that I love to see from Brandin Podziemski. And as far as what he's improving upon this season, I only have one issue with Brandin Podziemski's progression here. I actually like those hook shots. I actually like those, those floaters. He is so smooth, playing off of 2 feet, using the pivot foot very effectively, and being able to get creative, crafty shots in traffic. I mean, I love what Brandin Podziemski has done in those departments, and I hope he does keep some of those in his game, but I understand the need for a more high-volume, high-efficiency type of shot diet, right? Because on catch-and-shoot three-point attempts last year, he wasn't great, and he's saying that he's going to work on his catch-and-shoot three-point attempts. Steve Kerr has also said that that is something that he needs to work on way back in when the regular season was going on. He said, Brandin Podziemski's got to get better at being available and shooting off the catch and making those looks at a high percentage. So 35.9% is probably not going to cut it. Needs to bump that number up, and likely the volume as well. And so if we want to talk about volume, the pull-up three percentage was really good, but he only took 27 of them. 11 to 27, bump those numbers up. I hope we can remain at 40%. Would probably be pretty difficult, but I would like to see that go down. As far as step-back threes go, what? 56.5%? I mean, 13 to 23. Again, low volume, but Brandin Podziemski is a difficult shot taker and a difficult shot maker. I just hope more volume comes and the efficiency stays relatively the same, especially for these two marks here. And like I said, Brandin Podziemski does it all. He tries to stand out in ways that his game allows him to. He was the first rookie to record I know this is cherry pick stats, guys. I know this is cherry pick stats, but first rookie to record 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 steals, and 3 threes made in a game. So, he's a multifaceted 5-tool player. He's never going to hurt you in any specific department on the floor. He's good at everything. Also, was the second most assists without a turnover in a game by a rookie. 14 assists, no turnovers in a ball game. And by the way, I believe he was the only player to ever do this off of the bench. He was off the bench 14 times, no turnovers. Guy takes care of the ball, a smart basketball player. But my question is, who is Brandin Podziemski going to be? Are we asking him, as we decided not to include him in a Lauri Markkanen trade, not to include him in a Paul George deal, are we asking him to be a high-volume secondary scorer next to Stephen Curry? I don't know. I'm not sure if he's going to be there yet. What I do know is that this guy affects the game in a plethora of ways, all positives, no negatives really in Brandin Podziemski's game. Just don't know if he is that high-level superstar, potential, but he is fantastic at everything, and he is a player who is on a cost-controlled deal who Golden State is more than happy to be keeping around for the foreseeable future, because the value they got on him in the NBA draft is unbelievable. Took a look at a couple NBA redrafts. I know it's very early to be doing these kinds of things, but I just wanted to see what, mainstream media kind of thought of Brandin Podziemski relative to his draft position and relative to the rest of the class. CBS Sports had him at 6 overall in the 2023 redraft. Clutch Points had him at 7. Bleacher Report had him at 8. Sporting News had him at 8. So this is a top 10 guy, undisputed, that you got at pick 19 and now get to keep on a $3 to $5 million deal over the next 3 seasons. And then he becomes a restricted free agent, by the way. So you're going to be able to keep him for more. It's going to be a big contract, I would assume, based on what I think he's going to progress into over the next 3 seasons. But I think the Warriors will be happy with that result. I want you guys to do this for me. Predict Brandin Podziemski's stats for the 2024-25 NBA season. I want to hear from you. I've shown you guys my stat projections before. I think I got him around 17 points a night, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and that's a really, really good player in his second year. So I'm looking for good efficiencies in the shooting departments as well. But what do you guys think? Predict the stats for me down in the comments section. I want to hear from Dub Nation. Next, the Warriors also committed another highway robbery, and it wasn't too far away from the one we just talked about. We're going to get into all of that in just a moment. But before we do, I got to get you guys hooked up with the hottest deal in the game. Team USA shirts right here, right now. They won the gold. Steph went nuclear against France in the gold medal game, and you can get your merch right here. The official caricature of the Team USA from the 2024 Olympics at this link right here, chatsports.com/Team USA to get yours today. Got Steph front and center with LeBron. This is a once in a lifetime shirt because guess what? Our buddy Wardell is not going to play in an Olympics again at his age. Neither is LeBron, neither is KD. So this is a last hurrah for all these all-time legends. Go get yourself a piece of the memorabilia today at chatsports.com/Team USA. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video to make it easy for you guys. Go get yourself some Team USA merch right now. So more highway robbery. And this one is arguably even bigger than Brandin Podziemski's. Now, you could argue no, because Trayce Jackson-Davis will eventually be an unrestricted free agent compared to Brandin Podziemski's restricted free agency in a few years. But taking Trayce Jackson-Davis at pick 57, and you know how I just showed you those mock drafts or those redrafts of Brandin Podziemski? We're going to talk about Trayce Jackson-Davis's jump in just a little bit. But look at the contract on Trayce Jackson-Davis, baby. Are you kidding me? You're never paying this guy $2.5 million, and he never even counts for more than 1.44% of the cap? Are you kidding me? And I mean, when you look at this Warriors roster, we're going to talk about the front court in just a second, but Trayce Jackson-Davis is primed for a massive role on this Warriors team, and to be paying him less than $2.5 million over the next 3, I mean, Kevon Looney and Gary Payton II, their contract this year alone separately is more than Trayce Jackson-Davis' entire rookie deal, and he has already made a much bigger impact than many of us thought he would. Now, like I said, Trayce Jackson-Davis going to be an unrestricted free agent in 2027, so is not technically under team control past that season, but I imagine that he's going to progress along very nicely, have a big opportunity, a huge role for this Warriors team, and will be sticking around for the long term because in his rookie year, solid stuff. For a 57th overall pick to be averaging 8 points, 5 boards, a block a game, and 70% from the field, massive lob threat Trayce Jackson-Davis is, scoring basically all of his points around the rim, but to be shooting anywhere from 70% is good for me. For these numbers, coming from a rookie, didn't play a ton of minutes. Really, really, really great. Really great. And I think TJD is primed for a huge jump as far as his opportunity, his production, and his value to this Golden State team in 2024. Because as far as what this team has currently constructed right now, the front court is slim, my friends. It is slim. And I included guys like Jonathan Kuminga and Draymond Green. I mean, Draymond, yes, he will be playing the 5 at some point this season. I mean, if we look at, these are the guys in Golden State's front court right now. These are the guys who could be playing 4 and 5 on this team. And I didn't include Kyle Anderson because he's definitely not playing center. The only 2 players that I have full confidence in, and by the way, Quentin Post isn't even signed yet, mentioning that again, but the only 2 players who could play center in this entire group are Draymond Green and Trayce Jackson-Davis. And I'm not sure, I know Trayce Jackson-Davis is undersized himself, but I'm not sure how many of you Warriors fans want Draymond Green to be running at the 5 this season. It's another year older and just not big enough to be banging down low with the bigs of today's NBA. Trayce Jackson-Davis necessarily isn't either, but he's at least taller and bigger than Draymond Green and can affect more shots at the rim. And we talked about the redrafts. Here we go again with Trayce Jackson-Davis. I mean, Sporting News had him at 14, and they also had Brandin Podziemski at 8, I believe. So the Warriors absolute highway robbery by getting the 8th best player and the 14th best player in the draft at 19 and 57. Clutch Points had him at 18. Bleacher Report had him at 20. So a minimum of 37 draft spots ahead is what Trayce Jackson-Davis has proved himself to be, basically asserting himself as a would be first round pick in last year's draft had teams redrafted here. And overall, with Podziemski, with Trayce Jackson-Davis here, I've been critical of Mike Dunleavy and his inability to land a second star next to Steph Curry, but I believe in his ability to draft. I really do. I mean, to get these two guys the values that you did, and for the production that came from them in their rookie seasons and the opportunity that's going to come for them in their second year, I think it was complete highway robbery to be drafting those two guys. And I respect Mike Dunleavy for not giving in to the mob mentality, not giving in to me, pressing him for making a big-time swing deal for Lauri Markkanen or Paul George. He's holding out hope. The Warriors front office still believes they're in great position to make a big splash trade this year to land that second star next to Steph. So I believe in the vision of Mike Dunleavy. But I want to hear from you. What do you guys think? Grade Dunleavy's job as Golden State's general manager so far. He's made some great moves in the draft. He hasn't made some moves in free agency that many would have liked. But I would probably give this a solid B from Mike Dunleavy because the most important thing you can do in the NBA is draft homegrown talent. And Mike Dunleavy has done that so far. Let's see how it pans out in year 2 for Podziemski and Trayce Jackson-Davis. That'll be it for today's Golden State Warriors today. Make sure you guys are subscribed so we can beat 76ers now in this month's sub battle. I'll see you guys in the next one. Let's go Dubs.